Hello and welcome to StudyIQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigaonker. Friends, there's a great saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, isn't it? There's a picture in front of you here. What words or what message is it conveying to you? There are three containers with three flags. That means it's a discussion which is connected to international relations. One of the flag is Chinese, the other one is United States of America. That means this discussion is also connected to China versus US, a continuous competition for world hegemony. Apart from that, there's a very interesting flag of European Union. Now here, the main agenda of our discussion is to assess the status of transatlantic partnership. Now we all know that United States of America and the European Union have a great closeness from almost a century. I can give you many examples right from World War I. But the relationship has become very stronger post Second World War. I can give example of NATO. There is a collective defense organization which is led by United States of America for the security of the Europeans. And that is involved right now in the Russia-Ukraine war, not directly but indirectly, where the NATO and its allies are supporting Ukraine with at least arms and ammunition and also diplomatic support also, right? That means the transatlantic partnership between US and European Union has been very strong. But in this discussion, we are going to assess, has China been successful in breaking or at least putting fault lines in this transatlantic partnership? And this discussion is happening why? Because there has been a recent development. There has been a high-profile visit of French President Emmanuel Macron along with the European Union chief Ursula von der Leyen, which has brought some important facets or some important news regarding this transatlantic partnership. You can see here in the picture also, you can guess what exactly has happened or what is developing, what is brewing up. You can see that the container, that is European Union. European Union is a very good example of a supranational organization. The entire continent coming together to form a supranational organization where countries have let go of or countries have weakened their own sovereignty. But here you can see the container is open and some of the stars on this European Union flag, they're actually scattered. And in this particular discussion, we are going to assess two important players of European Union, Germany and France, how they are developing their relations with the Chinese. And that is the question here. And this has been highlighted, as I told you, there was a high-profile visit. And after the visit, European Union chief Ursula von der Leyen has clearly highlighted or clearly warned the world leaders that China will divide European Union or China will divide Europe amidst this Russia-Ukraine war. So what exactly is happening? We'll try to assess that. And again, in this particular discussion, we are going to analyze the developments that have taken place in the last 5 to 6 months. How important players from European Union, how they are visiting the Chinese and how they are developing their own relationship with the Chinese, where the agenda of European Union is different and those countries' agenda is something else. Let's try to analyze this. Let's begin our discussion first with one of the major players, Germany. Now, we all know Germany, there was a change in government last year, right? In fact, in 2021 end, there was a change in government. Earlier, there was Angela Merkel, who was the chancellor in Germany, but later on, Olaf Scholz gained power there. And Olaf Scholz, after coming, he became the first leader of a major country. I would say first leader of a major developed country to visit the Chinese after the COVID pandemic. That means after the COVID pandemic, he became important leader. Plus, after the Russia-Ukraine war started, he was the first leader to visit the Chinese in December 2022. In fact, we have discussed about this. Now, why this change? We all know that when Angela Merkel was there, she followed her own economic policies. That means relationship with the United States was already intact. That means there was no threat to the transatlantic partnership. But independently, Germany developed its relations with the Chinese. And when Olaf Scholz came, he transformed his policy. We have spoken about that on the main channel about the concept of Zeitenwende. Apart from that, we have also spoken about Olaf Scholz' foreign policy, where he talks about Wandel durch Handel. That means change through trade. So Germany is open to trade with anybody. Germany has actually extensive trade relations with the Chinese. So one country from European Union having good relations with the Chinese. Whereas in the transatlantic partnership, US is trying or US is competing with the Chinese. So one fault line already drawn. It's not just the Germans. In fact, in the last 4 to 5 months, another important country, that is Spanish leader, has also visited China. He met with Xi Jinping, that is the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez. He met with Xi Jinping in March 2023. But perhaps the biggest visit, it came from the European side when Emmanuel Macron, along with the European Union chief Ursula von der Leyen, they both visited China and they met Xi Jinping. Now, apart from this, there was another country, predominantly I would say South American country, Brazilian president also visited China. In fact, after meeting Xi Jinping, he also highlighted that why dollar should have predominance in terms of world trade. He asked for, or he called for, I can say, an alternate to the dollar currency. But this visit was quite high profile. Why? Because see, European Union was represented by Ursula von der Leyen, and one of the major powers from Europe, that is Emmanuel Macron, he was also visiting. Now, the agenda for France was quite clear. There is a question why exactly Emmanuel Macron was visiting Chinese, because see, France wanted to enhance its trade with the Chinese. In fact, on the agenda, many policy analysts suggest that one of the reasons for this particular visit was, of course, the conflict in Europe, that is the Russia and Ukrainian conflict, where one of the agenda was to ensure that China pressurizes the Russians to stop the war. But after the high profile visit, nothing happened. In fact, there was a passing reference to the Ukraine conflict in the entire statement. Apart from that, one of the important agenda of France was to enhance the bilateral trade with the Chinese. Now, we know that India and China, we have a trade deficit. That means Chinese imports are heavy in India. Same thing happens with the French also. In fact, in 2021, the Chinese imports to exports, that means the trade deficit was in favor of the Chinese approximately 40 billion euros. Now, to reduce this, Macron visited the Chinese. He wanted to sign certain deals. In fact, many deals were also signed. That means ahead of Macron's visit itself, the Total Energies and the Chinese National Offshore Oil Corporation, they signed a deal for LNG, liquefied natural gas. And remember, the payment here was an yuan settlement. I want to highlight this categorically. That means, again, irking the US, where you know that the dollar is the currency which is used for international trade. But here, France accepted. France and Chinese, they basically had an understanding of yuan settlement. Apart from that, during this visit, France was able to sign multiple agreements. And amidst that, one of the biggest was the sale of 160 Airbus planes. France is going to sell 160 Airbus planes to the Chinese. In fact, France is going to open up its new assembly line in China. Now, this is a huge news, where a European country is now going to invest in China to create an assembly line, and they're going to supply them with the Airbus planes. Great, isn't it? That means a European country enhancing its trade relations with the Chinese. There's nothing wrong in it. I'm not telling that it's wrong, right? Every country has its own national interest at its heart, and based on their national interest, which is quite dynamic, they change. But remember, France is also member of European Union. But the trade aspect is very fine. This is not even the agenda for discussion. But something else happened here in this particular visit. In an interview, when Emmanuel Macron was asked about the question of Taiwan, he answered that when it comes to Taiwan, we do not need to accelerate our interest and align ourselves with United States of America. Now, this clearly suggests now there is a fault line between France and United States of America. And categorically, France highlighting that Europe must resist pressure to become America's follower. That means Europe should not simply follow the suit of the Americans. This was highlighted by Emmanuel Macron. All right. Now, this was something of a surprise, and this has irked many diplomats, many experts in United States of America, and the US administration is also quite irked, first of all, with the yuan settlement, and next, this particular statement that France is not going to follow, or he used the term vassal, that France is not going to be a vassal of United States of America. On one side, Emmanuel Macron said this, but on the other side, Ursula von der Leyen, who was also traveling with Emmanuel Macron, she categorically warned the Chinese not to change the status quo with respect to Taiwan. She said, if there is any unilateral change, or use of force, that must be resisted. Now, this is in line with the European Union principles. Now, we all know European Union as a whole, the supranational organization, it respects rule of law, it respects democracy, it talks about human rights, though whatever double standards they follow, but fine. This was in line with the European Union's agenda that she want Taiwan. Now, this also shows that two people who are visiting together to a country, China, both of them representing European Union's interest. One person says that we are not interested in Taiwan. The other person says, do not involve yourself in Taiwan. This clearly shows that there might be some fissures here. So what's the take out of this particular discussion? What's the conclusion of this entire discussion is that European Union is right now fractured and countries are looking out for themselves. European Union as a supranational organization, its existence is right now threatened, and China has been quite successful in actually bringing a big barrier or a big fault line between United States of America and the European Union, or at least United States of America and some European nations, very powerful European nations, Germany and France. So what is happening right now in EU is that countries are now developing their own political and economic relations vis-a-vis China. Yes, that means bilateral relations are going on, but as a whole, European Union, it still follows the same principle that with respect to Taiwan question, we are still with the Taiwanese. That means we are still with United States of America. We follow US. Now, this is a huge development. Now, why? See, you need to understand it from a macro perspective also. On one side, there is China. Yes. Now, China has already, I would say, China has its claws already in Russia. Correct? Now, you know, China is a member of United Nations Security Council. Russia is a member of United Nations Security Council. And now, if France is also being sidelined, or if France is also siding itself with the Chinese, then it is going to be really dangerous for the geopolitical development going ahead. All right. But again, you all know that every country has a veto, but nonetheless, three countries aligning together is always dangerous, powerful nations. That is the take out of this. And European Union, for it to survive, now it has to take other countries' interests also, especially the powerful ones, France and Germany, right? Yes. So to answer the question, in short, has China been successful in drawing a dividing line between the transatlantic partners? Yes. United States versus European Union, or I can say United States versus some European Union members, sure. But you must be thinking, sir, okay, whatever happens here, what I am bothered about is India. Now, is there any opportunity for India here? Right? A very interesting article appeared, which is written by C. Rajamohan. He gives 5 pointers, but let me just sum it up. What exactly India should follow, or what's in it for India from this particular development? See, there are 3 important things. First of all, what has happened here by Macron and by Ursula von der Leyen, what has happened here is the European Union has exposed itself as a double standard player. Why? First of all, this European Union, they talk about democracy, they talk about peace, they talk about all these things, rule of law. But when it comes to them, it's the center of their world. Means if a conflict is happening in Ukraine, Russia is attacking Ukraine, then it's a threat to the entire European peace. It's a threat to the world peace. And if China is aggressive over Taiwan, then Macron says, we are not bothered about that. That clearly exposes the double standards, their own double standards. And India has called these double standards multiple times. Last year itself, S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, has highlighted this also. Now, apart from this, there is a great opportunity here for India. See, if Macron, that means if France is distancing itself from United States of America, and if France is willing to do trade with the Chinese, why can't France do trade with Indians? So Indians have to use this opportunity, because India is right now the safest economy, or the emerging economy, which is I would say immune from the inflationary pressures also. Many policy experts are telling that the entire world is looking towards some sort of inflationary pressure, but India is largely immune from that. So welcome the European players into India. That's the opportunity. And apart from that, there is one more opportunity here. Now, if a European player is going away from United States of America, then Indian policy is that we are aligned with everybody. India believes in the policy of non-alignment, or I can put it in other words as multi-alignment. That means if US and the transatlantic partners, they are getting away, then India can use opportunity to get closer to United States of America also. There is no harm in that also. So India has some opportunities here. All right. So let's see how exactly things pan out. As of now, it's advantage China vis-a-vis USA. It's advantage China vis-a-vis India also. All right. Let's wait and watch how exactly things are going to develop. If there is any development over this, we'll discuss that again on Study IQ for sure. Now, before leaving, there is a small notice for all of you. If you're preparing for UPSC Civil Service Examination, Prelims to Interview batch number 3 is for you. All right. Now, this is a long-term batch where we will be with you for your prelims preparation. We will be with you for your mains preparation. In fact, Study IQ will bear all the expenditure of your mains residential program. We will be with you for your interview guidance program also. And all this comes at the cost of 29,999 itself. Now, for this price, do use the code Rahul Live. And before leaving, if you want to follow me, if you have any suggestions, if you have any feedback, if you want to connect with me, you can always follow me on this particular ID at the rate Rahul Sai 222. Thank you for watching this video. Jai Hind.